This is what happens when 50% of the creative team of a work, the female half, funny enough, is systematically silenced in programs, emails, web pages, social media, booklets, comments, meetings, and conferences. I only mention this as a humble footnote, since the amount of 30 euros has been marked for each time of these bars, and it only seems fair to clarify that the institution thus rewards the extraordinary work of a single person, the only person, the only visible creative 50% of, and also rewards the drops of sweat that spill from the foreheads and fingers of the members of the quartet during the 16, 17, 18, and 19 hours they spent studying and rehearsing. Please, a round of applause for the members of the quartet.
Decision is that the people doesn't like this beginning.
Then back to the beginning. Neither I nor the members of the quartet would be here if it were not for the foundation that granted the amount of euros to create. Please give a big hand for the foundation. And now those of you who think that what we are doing here is a heroic act, please raise your hands. I knew it. Not even in these crucial times for the survival of our species does anyone think that what is happening in front of you, and you could not just be circumstantial. All human beings have always thought that the time in which they are living is the most crucial of all. Play some music from the most crucial of times. Those who had to eat rubbish and succumb to the black market workers wearing white uniforms, making weekly donations of their blood, their lymph, their bowels, and cerebrospinal fluid, empty of cells formed by water, proteins, carbohydrates, and liquids. This is to say, those who capitalize the veins for 25 euros an hour just to wear on the CV the name of the new Paris, which is based in the new New York. Thank you. What were they doing here? They were searching for something they lacked. That is what they said to each other, and what they said themselves when they were stepping out of the front door after leaving the houses where they were always just passing through. They were assaulted, each in turn, only 10, 40, and 80 meters away. His house, now to be forever preserved, his grave next to the bench that is always empty, so they could sit where they gazed his name engraved in copper, which was already more than they had received in their previous lives of scattered bones and mass graves seen in Omine. This must be the place, they told themselves. It was certainly not by chance that he lived and enjoyed the most fertile careers here, that they found the always enlightened criteria and the detailed criticism of each and every one of the people who they encountered. From the impertinent waiter down to the sarcastic and ruthless civil servant to the malicious lady of the supermarket stricken from joy at birth. All this to return to their homes with a smile. So it was, and so it should be.
The decision is unanimous. People do not like this beginning.
Thank you. Many thanks for joining us. Please, a big hand for the institution that makes this concert possible. Please, a big hand for all those smiles that you don't see but the quartet and I do. And last but not least, I want to thank this choir that makes our work amazingly easy. You are the best.
The decision is unanimous. People like this beginning.
This is how things were, and so they were meant to be, or so we all believed. The dreams of thousands of us are frustrated on a daily basis by a system plagued with dead ends, a system in which the creative power has to settle for reducing itself to a series of regulated structures that are stripped of the capacity to acquire their own innovative dynamism. What does the production of this work matter? What do the authors matter? What do the performers matter? Aren't all works of art nothing more than an attempt at creative expansion, frustrated precisely by the exchange of interests that takes place? this society that exchanges goods without end, everything leads us to proliferation and the vertiginous compulsive consumption of production.
The people does not agree with.
5 minutes have passed since the work began, and they still don't know what it's about. We are supposed to be a chorus. We are a scientific code. Somebody told me we generate knowledge.
Good that we said it, because they have detected that on several occasions you have been paraphrasing or quoting other people like me.
The next time you're quoting other people, you may say that you detect the other. Yes, you want to say that detect you will say the other than
We are
we are writing the 20th April 2020 und es liegt zum Scherz.
Sure. Quartet, could you please play some original music by the composer Belenish Moreno-Gil to satisfy the chorus? Okay, if that isn't possible, please just continue with the music assigned for this moment. As I was saying, under such conditions, and I quote, it becomes increasingly difficult to keep the ability to choose alive. End of the quote. Who says, 2015, The Decline of the West, published by Editorial Herta, Barcelona, page 175, translation by Ben Clark. In other words, since it is impossible to distinguish between a relevant work of art and an irrelevant work of art, we must resort to, and I quote, identifying its relevance by observing the quantitative cluster, end of the quote, who says, IBID. This is to say, artistic quality does not matter. What matters is to have a good dossier with thousands of works premiered in a row. Consequently, we could say that knowing, and I quote, to know what the difference is between supporting art and feeling the need to fatten the tab named works on aging web pages to calm our own emptiness through vertiginous consumption. Now, that is the question. I was paraphrasing Shakespeare here.
That is why all the objects of exchange must be comparable in some way. This is why money was put into the equation. After all, demand keeps us together. Money has become by convention a kind of substitute for demand. That is precisely why it has the name money, nomisma, because it exists not by nature but by law, nomos, and it is in our power to change it and make it useless.
Aristotle, Nickelback in Athens, 2001 edition, Alianza Editorial, Madrid, pages 188 to 189, translation by Ben Clark.
What happens is 50% of the creative team for work, a few and a half, funny enough, is silence in programs, emails, web pages, social media posts, booklets, comments, meetings, and conferences. That's
And I quote, all women know what I'm talking about. Our quest for an active cultural arena continues, in some daunting battle. I think that we understand the extent of misogyny
Is the time in which we are living the most crucial of all times?
Yes, everything around us is reduced to a number.
The work has already begun, and they still don't know what it's about.
Initial budget, minus 17 hours of rehearsal on average per person, minus 200 hours of composition, minus 4 hours of travel, minus 7 hours of emails, minus 28 minutes of phone calls, minus 40 hours of score editing, minus 5 hours of text translation, minus 29 hours of video editing, minus 61 hours of electronic editing, minus 2.5 hours of Skype meetings, minus 2.7 grams of graphite, minus 6 hotel nights, minus the rental of technical equipment, minus the fee of the technician, minus the fee of the performers, minus the fee of the composers, minus the fee of the translators, illustrator, minus the fee of the copyist, minus 2 Autotune para el Pueblo t-shirts, minus 55.5 liters of oxygen for each performer. Initial budget, minus 17 hours of rehearsal on average per person, minus 200 hours of composition, minus 4 hours of travel, minus 7 hours of email, minus 28 minutes of phone calls, minus 40 hours of score editing, minus 5 hours of text translation, minus 29 hours of video editing, minus 61 hours of electronic editing, minus 2.5 hours of Skype meetings, minus 2.7 grams of graphite, minus 6 hotel nights, minus the rental of technical equipment, minus the fee of the technician, minus the fee of the performers, minus the fee of the composers, minus the fee of the translators, minus the fee of the... Just as I posted on Instagram on May the 2nd, 2020, when the Titanic sank, the worst thing wasn't the cold blow, it was the people.